Welcome back. My name is Dak, and today in this video I'm going to be going through a chess video. I just want to show you my progress before we get started year to date. So beginning of the year I started playing chess at really Christmas of last year, and I was 1100 and struggled, got down in the 1000s and stuff like that, but I saw improvement, up and downs, but more or less steady improvement all the way up until about April. And then I had a peak rating of 1382. And then, for whatever reason, I started playing tired. I started playing sloppy. I was experimenting a whole lot of things, and I went through a bad streak. Just boom, 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 boom. Lost of games. Fell down to 1234. Basically, 150-point loss between April 21st and by May 1st. So over a course of less than 2 weeks, I dropped 150 points. Lost a lot of bad games. And then I said, you know what, I'm not going to play tired. I'm going to go back to the basics, just, play fundamental chess, not try fancy things. And I've been seeing some success. So, I've been picking it back up, and I'm starting to see some success. So again, I'm moving back up. Now I'm at, 1364. So again, I know I'm not great at chess. I know I'm still struggling. I'm still in the lower half of people that play blitz chess online. But I want to show you my most recent game. So let's see, blitz games, view the games. This is the game I just played a few minutes ago. I'm trying to get to 1,000 games here pretty soon. Let's see, I'm going to start all the way at the beginning. My opponent started off by playing e4. Now I usually start with a perk defense, so I moved up my queen pawn up one. They go for the center of the board. I transition then into a King's Indian defense, start moving my knight out. However, I don't get to do the knight's Indian. I want to move here, and castle my king over here. That's what I want to do. But the computer says to move the knight. That's usually what I expect to see. However, you're going to see an aggressive move right here. That's a bad move according to the computer, and it's like, oh, this is exactly why I do the perk defense. I want to have this pawn out here to take. So I do. He takes back. Now this results in a queen trade. Now I want to do the queen trade because this knight is not out yet to take it. So it's going to force the king to move, which means that king will no longer have castling rights, and now it's out of position. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take with my queen, forcing his king to take my queen. Because honestly, there's nothing else that could be done. There's no knight out. There's nothing else. The only option is to take my queen. Great. So now what this has done is it's allowed me to move my knight up, which is what I do immediately. And here is an interesting point. If my opponent doesn't see it, let's say makes a move over here, I'm going to go for a fork. So if if my opponent had done a very natural move, take this bishop, come down to protect this exposed pawn, because worried that this knight's going to take the pawn, and moved here, I would have moved in, taken this f2 square pawn, and then I would have put a fork on the king and been able to take the rook without even having to sacrifice my knight yet. So that was what I was seeing at this point. At this level you usually don't see these forks, but it's really nice when you get the knight on king fork. However, they see it, and so they move back their king, which now this is no longer, which is great though, because this is now a pawn, and now I'm +1. I'm up a pawn. I've got my knight out. I still can move into the King's Indian if I get a chance. I'm pretty happy with the first 6 moves. They move their bishop out, attacking my knight. Now, okay, a couple different options. First, I could protect. I could retreat. I could, move somewhere else. Well, this one would be attacked, but I was, looking at different positions, different places I could go with my knight. But I decided I'm going to protect with my other knight. So just develop, get another knight out. They bring both bishops out, and now, according to basic premises, you should move your knights out before bishops. This is a good example. They're moving their bishops out. I've got my knights out. Now the computer wanted me to go there. I eventually do this, but I don't see it originally. I'm too worried that if he takes, I take, he takes, he goes up a knight is what I'm concerned about. But so I defend over here, which is not the most accurate move. they move back with their bishop, which is great for me. So I move out. I'm going to decide I'm going to be a little more aggressive. I've developed my bishop. I'm now seeing this pawn, which is just hanging. This didn't really do too much. This bishop was not under any pressure, so he moved back while not being under any pressure. Moves the knight out. Now the computer wants me to long castle. Now I should have long castled. That would have been smart. I see it now. It didn't do it at the time. Instead, I'm saying, oh, here's a hanging pawn. So I take it. I'm like, free pawn. But the computer said, look at that drop. So I went from a nearly 2 full point advantage down to there. So if I'd been playing a stronger opponent, this would have been come back to hurt me. He then moves a bishop pawn up to attack my knight, putting pressure on the piece. So in response, I retreat my knight and get it out of the way, take this square. I'm a little worried my king is more exposed than I want it to be. I don't have natural development to get the King's Indian like I like, but I'm like, okay, at this point I'm just not going to worry about the King's Indian. I'm just going to play as is, play the game. We're about a minute each, so he's at 2 minutes right now. I'm at 1:58, so we're about the same time-wise. He's putting pressure on my bishop. I retreat my bishop. The computer wanted me to go all the way, but I go right here. At this point, the computer says, do that, but and he's developing, got his knight out. All right, again, another long castling is what I should be doing, but I want to get this rook on the open file, so that's what I do. I go for the open file. He moves his king out of the way. I think concerned that I was going to be coming in here some direction, but instead I finally move my pawn up to put pressure on this bishop. He then takes my knight, and I take back. I don't like this. I got double pawns, and I got an isolated pawn over here. It's not my favorite pawn structure, but I'm like, okay, I'm up 2 pieces at this, 2 points right here. I got an open file. My king has got guardians. I'm not too worried about it. All right, so then they offer me a rook trade. Now, a recent video I saw tells me if you offer you a trade like this, if I do it, I take and he takes. What happens now? He has a rook on the open file with my king exposed. I don't have to take, so I could just continue to develop. I could move a knight out. I could move bishop. I could try doing stuff. So that's what I thought. I'm like, let's get this pawn up. So I move a pawn up. Now I got an opportunity to get my bishop out. So right here, I'm offering, do that. I wanted to be a little more aggressive. I saw this. Now he's got 1, 2, 3, whereas I've only got 1, 2. I saw that. I knew that I was outnumbered, but I figured at some point I was going to be able to get something like this in here. So that's what happens. He does a rook trade, and I say he, but I mean whoever my opponent is, could be a she or a they. Takes my, we do a rook trade. And so at this point, all right, I'm thinking he's going to come bring another check at some point, and we're going to have this exchange, and I want to bring this rook out here. So they do the exchange, but I also see this check. Because of that, I have a bishop that can come put pressure. I don't have to immediately take. I see, and I do a check. Puts pressure on the king. King moves over. Now that's what I wanted. He could have moved back, but I really wanted him on this file because that's going to create a pinned opportunity here. So I take with my pawn, and he responds by taking with the knight. That's great, because I'm like, oh, now I see I have a pinning position. He seems like he could be able to take my knight, but he won't be able to because I'm going to pin his knight to his king. Now this one can't move. So now I have 2 pieces. So I have 1, 2 attacking, and he's only got 1 defender. So now all of a sudden the odds have changed. He moves, his rook puts me in a check. Great, I move over, move out of the way. But now he's got an open file that I got to be concerned about. But at this point, I'm like, okay, I've still got up pieces, and I'm going to do an exchange and see if I can't keep doing better. Oh, and this is what really does it. So, I thought he was going to come here. I thought he was going to, do something with his, something else with his knight, move in here. I thought something was going to happen. I thought he was going to come here, or no, not there, but like, do something crazy with his rook. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I thought I was going to see some pressure. Instead, he moves his king out of the way. Maybe the king is trying to get out of the way, but all of a sudden this is like, okay, it's no longer a pinned piece, so I'm going to take with my knight. Now, I don't think he saw the fact that I had my rook. So what happens? Takes with a bishop, and I'm like, wonderful. It's an unguarded bishop. We're 113, we're 116, 113. We're still about the same on time, and I'm like, oh, now I'm in a much better position. I'm +4. I've taken his bishop. He's got a rook to my rook. He's got one knight to my 2 bishops, and then he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 pawns, and I've got 5 pawns. Yeah, these are doubled up, but it's like that's a pretty good advantage. So it's like, if we take off the rooks and we do a trade for a bishop and a knight, I'm going to end up with 1 plus bishop and 1 plus pawn. So it's like, boom, I can start taking things out, end up with an extra pawn. I've got a winning position. This is the point where my opponent resigned. I thought they could have continued to develop or do something, but at this point that's when they resigned, and that was my game. And so again, just try to keep it simple, try to see things as they develop, try to let the game come to me instead of trying to do something fancy. And that's my game. Thanks for watching. Feel free to comment below what I should have done different, thoughts on the games. This is just 1300s, trying to figure out what they're doing. All right, take care.